So I want to do this video, and as usual, it's something I'm pretty passionate about, and it's something I want to talk about because it's something that it perplexes me, and I don't understand the perspective of people who participate in what we're going to be talking about today. So the other day, I went on to X, as I usually do, and one person who I respect as a content creator and think is a pretty, I can't speak on them as a person, but as a content creator, I respect them. They did their business, they did what they love doing, and they got huge because of it, and now lives, as far as I can tell, a pretty good life. And he's put out a little bit of weird content talking about some things that have happened in his past, and that man is the man, the myth, the legend, Goblin420, and he's one of those people in the cannabis community that I've gotten a couple comments about. I can't speak on the fucking community as a whole. Personally, I respect him. I almost had a chance to meet him a couple of years ago, and unfortunately I was not able to do that, but I do respect him as a content creator. I've listened to a lot of his content, and I think he is a cool content creator and video maker. So Goblin420, he released a tweet, and it's got me a little bit confused. It's got my heart wrenched and my gears going in my head. So he was talking about a couple things, and he was talking about the cannabis community as a whole. In general, he might have been thinking about a couple people who he personally doesn't like or respect, or does content that is super redundant. But a couple things he said, he talked about how the cannabis community isn't really going to be a thing in 5 years. There's a lot of things that we do that they're not going to care about, like a 1 gram dab, and that right off the bat, I want to address that directly as its own point. He mentioned that I'm going to put the fucking X's or the tweets up, whatever the hell you want to call them, just so I don't have to like read them to you guys, just going off my head what I remember from them. He talked about how if someone wants to do a 1 gram dab, nobody cares about watching someone do a 1 gram dab because someone will go and do it themselves, and that just on its own is pretty ridiculous. I've tried to do a 1 gram dab and I couldn't, and call me a pussy. I could put that linked in the description below so you guys can watch. I did it for my 1,000 subscriber celebration, but that's neither here nor there. What I do want to really talk about is kind of the general sense of infighting. And he started a couple fires, and Pigeons420 got caught in the crosshairs and replied to a comment, or replied to his tweet rather. And I also replied to his tweet saying kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. Why is it that when we have a community, and this goes for everything, I'm in the hunting community, I'm in the fitness community, I'm in the cannabis community, obviously, I'm in the YouTube community as a whole, media making and whatnot, and then I also have my personal things I like doing that I don't necessarily do for content that also have infighting in them, and I don't really understand what the point is. The Elden Ring community, for God's sakes, is really toxic with this, and it's one of those things where someone will be in the community, someone new will start up, a lot of Elden Ring players, a lot of people who are just getting access to legal Mary Jane, people who want to get into hunting, and all of these things. We want the communities to grow larger, especially with legalization being on the cusp of a lot of things. I mean, how many places got legal just this year, the year 2024? How many are going to be legal in 2025, where people are going to be able to finally openly express their love for the community, their support for the community, and actually have conversations and maybe even come up with something to contribute to the community as a whole? And finding a way to express themselves that maybe a lot of people do, or hey, here's an easier way to do something, here's a way that's different that maybe you haven't had access to before. Why is it that we like to get onto a high horse and accuse other people of doing it wrong, or saying they can't do it because they don't do a certain thing? Why is it that the most toxic thing for a community is some of its members? I've never understood that. Why is it that when someone is part of something you like, but they do it slightly different, they get some kind of fucking trigger happy in your head, and you feel the need to take out your anger on that person, call them something mean, and discourage them from partaking in the hobby, forever dwindling the numbers of the hobby. And that's one of the things that I specifically want to target. Is, I will say this, the cannabis community is going to be well, and it is going to be strong in 5 years. I know I'm going to be here. I know, well, I can't actually speak for anyone else, but based on the past, a lot of people are probably going to be sticking around to further make content because it's something they are passionate about. It's something they enjoy. It's something they like doing. And I think that every single person is genetically coded to need it for some certain reason. I could be wrong. I'm not a fucking scientist. I'm just talking about based on my experience and a lot of books I've read and studies that are coming out, that it is very apparent that this plant has been put on the earth for a reason, and we evolved alongside it, and we've evolved having it be a part of our lives for a very long time, longer than you've been around, longer than any human being has been around in their current form, and longer than fucking probably lobsters, because trees are older than lobsters. And is cannabis technically a tree? I don't fucking know, but that's completely besides the point. We are fighting each other for doing things differently in a community that we all want to take part of, but some of us apparently don't. I'm not saying Goblin 420 is trying to discourage anybody. It's a very weird thing when you get into fighting each other, saying one way is wrong. And a classic example from when I started growing was people who grew organic did not do not like that people grow synthetically, because their claim is that they get more terpenes and they grow bigger yields or better flower, higher quality flower that tastes better. And a lot of studies have been coming out that are debunking that fact, that they claim to be a fact, and saying that it's a myth. And that's because the terpene numbers don't change, the flavor profile doesn't change, but maybe, just maybe, you personally aren't good at growing synthetic. That's not a bad thing. I've been growing synthetic and I've had amazing results. I've had the most flavorful bud I have ever had, even compared to other people's organic, even especially compared to dispensary stuff. And I've had nothing but, I had nothing but great results. I've had a lot of great results in the synthetic growing space. I've also had great results in the organic growing space, even though it's more low maintenance, even though it's kind of do it yourself, and I kind of neglected the entire process. I still had great results, and that's because genetically we're further along than we've ever been. When it comes to selective breeding, we're breeding these plants to be able to put up with anything. And when you're in a space where there are a million different ways to grow your plant, a million ways to train your plant, a million plants to grow, you can't even name all of the genetics, because not only do you not remember all of them, but even if there was a list with all of the genetics, tomorrow there's going to be something completely different that maybe doesn't even have a name. Maybe there's stuff we've discovered that doesn't have a name. Maybe there's stuff that we haven't discovered that doesn't have a name. Maybe there's ways that we haven't been growing for the past 25 years that are going to be obsolete in the next 10. It makes it very difficult to progress as a community. It makes it very difficult to be a healthy community when all you can focus on as a grower is making sure that people are shamed for the way they grow their plant. I've never understood going out of your way to get at somebody for the way they grow, because as long as you're growing in my book and you are growing plants you are happy with, fantastic, good job. Not everybody can do that. I have failed to do that in the past. I know what it's like and it sucks, but I have tried different ways. I have done different things. I've done the same things in different ways, and I've done the same things with the same thing in a different way to get better results. But the result of changing and not shunning myself into a certain corner is one of the biggest strengths, I feel like, when it comes to me growing. And I feel like a lot of people need to exercise that more rather than going after someone else who is growing and is saying they're getting a certain result. But on the other hand, you're saying and sitting back and saying, no, you didn't get that result. And there's no way you got that result because this is what I'm doing and these are the results I'm getting. So there is no way you got that. I could go on and on about this. I could rant forever. The basis of my thing is I don't understand why people go after each other in a community because it doesn't do anything to help anybody. What we need to be doing is talking to people who aren't sure about the space, aren't sure if they want to get into it, and trying to be mentors or at least educators. And that's a big thing when it comes to my channel. I want people to know as much information as I can possibly get out about what I am doing and why I do it. And speaking of which, I am excited to get my veg update going here because I want to do a mid and a late veg update. So if you're following me for that, hang tight. But I just wanted to talk today about infighting, how it's nothing but counterproductive, getting upset and frustrated and lashing out at a community or a community member doesn't really do anything. As long as they're not like hurting anybody, it doesn't really matter. If I grow hydro and I use 5.5 pH, but you grow organic and use a 6.0 pH, you could fight about either one of those, but what is the point as long as we are both happy with what we have and we know what the fuck we're doing and we can encourage people to do what we do. I think that is where we need to focus most of our energy. And I promise a lot of you guys, if you are an infighter and you look back at your comments and you are seeing the negativity, you are seeing, because I've done this, right? We've all been part of we've all shamed, whether it's passive aggressively or something. And if you haven't done it anywhere else, you probably did it on Facebook because something about Facebook just brings out the worst in people. But we've all done it and we can certainly change. And if you have done it in the past and you seem to not be able to get out of the cycle of infighting and just lashing out at people who are in the community, maybe take a step back and look into a different community that you're passionate about. Maybe instead of cannabis, you go to sewing, knitting. Maybe you just take a step back and do something else, or even just touch some grass. And just realize that life is a lot bigger than whether you grow organic or hydro. Life is a lot better or a lot bigger than if you grow indoor or outdoor, and life is a lot bigger than whether you breed strategically or pollen chuck. Life is just so much bigger than the cannabis community and who we are as people. And I feel like we should just try to make a positive impact on people. That's kind of the basis of what I wanted to get at, is we're all negative in some regard, but be negative in a better way. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean, but I think I'm going to leave you off on that and maybe ask ourselves a couple questions. But hey, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. I'm just, sometimes I get a little bit frustrated with infighting, and I feel like, especially in these trying times, we need a drop of positivity in our lives and maybe a couple of smiles. So I will see you guys next time. Grow content coming very soon. That's about it. Thank you guys very much.